Hello, I wish to talk to you about immigration. There are people trying to blame immigrants for everything. Now, I want to take you back. I've given you little history lessons here and there. Let's go back after the Civil War. And down south, there was these wealthy plantation owners. And they were faced with a very fearful situation. Here were all these ex-slaves. Some they had brutalized, now free. And there were the poor whites that they had looked down upon. Now, these wealthy plantation owners were a very small minority. And they were afraid. They had all the money, and they were afraid that this big population of people pretty poor off would come for their money. So what they did is they took out the old strategy of divide and conquer. They began to tell these poor whites, it's the fault of all these free ex-slaves taking everything that should be yours. It's not our fault, it's those slaves. And they began to blame all the blacks. It's the blacks' fault. Today we hear similar things. You hear some men saying, I can't get a good job because there's some woman getting that job, and they're giving preferential treatment to a woman or to a person of color or some minority. Or now is some immigrant, and they use the most despicable term. They call them illegal. Let me make it perfectly clear to you. There is no such thing as an illegal human being. And these are not illegal immigrants. Some are undocumented. Most of them are documented and have a legal right. Those who are working here that shouldn't be, those employers know it. And so, but you see, put the blame on the immigrant, put the blame on the women, put the blame on the minorities, but don't blame the bosses who knowingly are cutting wages. Don't put the blame on the Republicans who have held down minimum wage for the last 40 to 50 years. Minimum wage should be $25 an hour right now if it kept up with the cost of living and productivity. But it's been held back by Republicans. To remember Ted Kennedy before he passed away, chewing out the Republicans, asking how much do they want from the working people? They're unwilling to raise the minimum wage. Also, those big CEOs could get bigger and bigger paychecks. You see, the economy was doing so good up to the 70s. And it looked like that we would come to a day where we could be working 4 days a week with the same amount of money and maybe even less hours, and it'd be prosperity for everyone. But some greedy people said, "Why should those workers get that? Why can't it all come to me, the wealthy guy at the top?" Oh, being a millionaire wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to be multimillionaires. Being a multimillionaire wasn't good enough for them. They wanted to be billionaires. Now some want to be trillionaires. And who do they take that from? Do they do it by making a better product and something that no one else is doing so people are flocking to it? No, they want to cut your wages. They want to hold you back. They're looking for the cheapest labor they can get. It's them who have shipped your job overseas. An immigrant didn't ship your job overseas. That wealthy Republican CEO sent your job overseas, and then you're foolish enough to believe their lie when they tell you, hey, it's the immigrant taking your job. Hey, it's a woman taking your job. It's that minority taking your job. No, that wealthy CEO took your job, shipped it overseas, and now he's gaslighting you into thinking of someone else's fault. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to put a link in here to a verse in the Bible which says that you must not mistreat the immigrant. And it says God would be very angry and he would be very wrathful against anyone who mistreats immigrants. And you know what? Maybe Trump's mistreatment of immigrants is why COVID hit so hard. Did you notice? Trump almost died from COVID. President Biden also got COVID, but it was just a little bit of a sickness and he came out of it like anyone with a flu does. Could that have been God's judgment? Maybe. Jesus said in Matthew 25, what you've done unto the least of these, you've done unto me. He said, did you welcome the stranger in? Stranger was biblical term for immigrant. And what did he say about those who did not? He said they would be turned out to the place of eternal torment, hell. So let me ask you, you call yourself a Christian? Are you being hateful and not welcoming the immigrant in? There are enough jobs. This country is so wealthy that if we kept the jobs here in America instead of shipping the jobs overseas, we would all be working maybe only 4 days a week with more than enough money. You say, oh, I make more than minimum wage. Yeah, but the employer bases what he's paying you on whatever the minimum wage is. And maybe you make $20, $25 an hour. Well, if minimum wage was $25, you'll be making $35, $40 an hour. Tell me, could you live a lot more comfortably on $40 an hour? Most people could. But that wealthy CEO wants to get all his hands on all that money. What are they going to do with it? They're going to hoard it. They're going to stash it away. It's like somebody who collects newspapers, and you go in their house after they've passed away, and there's all this newspaper, all this junk everywhere because they just hoarded it all up. Well, the wealthy are doing the same thing with money that should be in your pockets. But they're hoodwinking you by saying, "Oh, it's not us, not us. It's an immigrant over there. He took your job. It's that woman that doesn't know her place. She took your job, mister. You know, you have some male pride. It's a man's world, isn't it? Put that woman back in her place. No. Put that wealthy CEO in his place. There is enough jobs for women and men, for blacks and whites, for every race under this earth. We can welcome all the immigrants in, and we still will have more than enough jobs if we keep them here in America. But maybe that wealthy CEO will have to be satisfied with just being a millionaire instead of being a multimillionaire or a billionaire or a trillionaire. Personally, I think it should be illegal to be a trillionaire, maybe even illegal to be a billionaire. What does anyone need that much money for? And, the thing is, we all see these power balls come up, and I think, oh man, it'd be neat to get in. I see these big, beautiful yachts, and I think that would be so neat, but I could never be comfortable having such luxury, knowing someone else was living on the street with nothing. Yes, there are some people. There were people in the past who liked the hobo life, but they were very few. If you look back in time, before Reagan, there really was not a homeless problem. But that's when the money started being hoarded to the top for the wealthy. And it became worse and worse. Now we got homeless everywhere. And some people say, well, yeah, but most of the homeless is in democratic cities. Yeah, because big cities is where there's more programs to help the homeless. And most of those big cities are democratic. Doesn't it make sense that most of the homeless would flock to where they're going to get the most help? So let me say this very clear. You like the house you have, you want to keep it. You want to keep the job you have, but get more money. You can't vote for someone like Donald Trump and expect to get it. You need to vote for someone who will work for you, and that's Kamala Harris. Thank you, everybody. You have a good day.